Okay guys, so yesterday I talked about suspension on gravel bikes. Today I want to talk about gearing, and I talked about this a little bit before. So with a 1x system, you are going to be limited to an upper range or a lower range. What I mean by that is if you have a 42 or 44 chainring and you go down to an 11 speed or 12 speed cassette, you are going to be limited with that 1x system to be at the upper range or the lower range, and hence that's where a lot of this what they call mullet drivetrain got started, and gravel bikers were starting to use mountain biker cassettes. So the 12-speed mountain bike cassettes go up to 50, and there's gravel bike cassettes that do that too now, and I think they go even bigger, perhaps. I don't know, I don't go that far. The biggest cassette I have is a 46. So that's where I stand with the range I choose for my cassette. So let's start there. Should you choose an 11 or 10 46 or 10 50, or even if you get the E13, you can actually go down to a 9. So that little 9 cog, or that little 10 or 11 cog, is your fast pace. It's your upper limit when combined with your chainring about how fast you can go on flats or slight climbs or something like that. And when I first built this up, I built it up with a 44, thinking I don't want to lose my long distance rides on flat bike paths or flat gravel roads, and be able to keep that bigger gear and pace at 20 miles an hour pretty easily. I think with my 44 11, I could easily pace at 24 miles an hour. So then I started looking at that retrospectively, and how often do I ride at that speed on my gravel bike with bigger tires? And that's what I built this bike for, to be a gravel bike for trails and bigger tires. And I digress. I don't. I was topping out at maybe 18 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour. Those are my flat speed, you know, long range cadence, where I maintained that and kept it going for my century rides. I did not really ever push a big gear. I seldom dropped it down to the 11 on my cassette, and I stayed around the 14 or the 13, and that was where I found a better pace, keeping my cadence at like 60 at the lower end. So that got me to thinking. Plus I rode up here with that, and that cassette only went up to a 42, and I rode up to here with that 44 to a 42, and it killed me. It was tough, and these hills are unforgiving. And I also rode over into Hunga with that same gearing. It sucked. And so I'm all about embracing the suck. Don't get me wrong. I try to do challenging things. But there gets to a point where it's not even comfortable anymore. And what is my sustainability of doing a long distance ride if I'm just blasting myself like that on the steep sections? So I thought, well, I'm going to get a 38 and I'm going to get a 46. So I got the Garbaruk, which is significantly lighter than the Shimano XT. In hindsight, I might have gone with the Shimano XT for the fact that the Garbaruk doesn't really have good interaction with the standard GRX800 rear derailleur. And I think you have to get those Garbaruk cage and pulley system to really make it interact better. And I haven't done that. Perhaps I'll do that next. But with my standard stock GRX 800, it's the higher GRX, and that Garbaruk 1146, and I'll show it to you in a minute. Well, I'll show you right now. I'm not all the way up in the smallest. Let me go in the smallest. Well, now it sounds fine, but when I go from the smallest and drop it down to the next one, I get this. And I think part is because the chain doesn't marry to the cassette as well, and also it's the drop stop teeth. So if it doesn't line up properly with those drop stop teeth, it makes those noises. So there, I dropped it again, and that seems to be better. Well, no, it's here. I hear sound. So I could barrel adjust and try to fine tune some of that out, but there's to a point where you could see it's aligned, and the reason it's making those noises is not misalignment. It doesn't play nicely together. And I'm not obviously I'm not sponsored by Garbaruk. They wouldn't want me talking like that, but I'm just going to tell you how it is. So yes, I don't really care that it's that much lighter, although that's nice. I do agree, especially on a gravel bike, that weight matters. I agree on every bike, weight matters. So not to the point where you want to neglect your performance for weight. But anyway, so let me show that to you. So there it is. It's pretty too. It's a one-piece design, which makes it really, it makes it a lot nicer than the Shimano that's in multiple pieces. And getting that Shimano cassette on and off this, especially on and off this the Onyx hub with the Vesper hub has the little pins in there to protect the free hub body. Getting it aligned with that on a Shimano cassette is a pain in the butt. This is really easy. It lines up really nicely, and it's one piece. So let me talk to you about that. And here's my thinking. My thinking is just go smaller. And if the majority of your cycling is going to be in going up steep hills, then go down to 38, go down to 36, whatever it takes, and forget about that top end for flat roads. For me, my top end is just letting go of the brakes at this point. I don't need to pedal on any of my descent. I literally go for 20-30 minutes without pedaling, and then when I get on the streets going home, I go for another 30 minutes without pedaling. There is no pedaling on flats where I live. I don't live in a city or a suburb that has a lot of flat places to pedal. So that's my perspective. If you live in an area where you're using your gravel and you're riding a lot of flat, perhaps you want to have a bigger range, and you want to have the bigger front ring because you feel like you're just spinning out and you're hitting RPM of 100, cadence of 100, and you're barely going 20 miles an hour. So, you know, that's something to consider. I've personally never experienced that, because every place I've rode has been mostly steep mountains, and I came from a mountain biking background where all my rides were to a mountain and climbing up a mountain, climbing up 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. When I climb all the way up to Wilson, it's 5,000, I think it's 5,300 or 5,600 feet. So it's 5,000 feet, you guys. I'm not doing a loop where I'm only gaining 300 or 500 feet. I've never experienced that. Some of you guys are doing 20-mile loops and gaining only 500 feet. If that's where you live, then it makes sense. Get a 42 and get that monster 1150 in the back, so you will have a small one when you go up steep hills. But you might even just leave the 1146 at that point if you're only claiming 500 feet. But I'm going to go on the ladder, and I'm going to leave the smaller. I don't want to go to 50 in the back. I don't think it's necessary. I would rather go, it's a significant change and drop in gear if I go smaller in the front. That's where it counts. When you go down in the front, you go down significantly more than going bigger in the back. And if you guys do the math, you'll realize that if you look at the gear ratio. So look at your gear ratio, look at where you ride, and geek out on it for yourself. But I've geeked out on it enough for this vlog, so I just thought I would share that with you guys. I'll talk to you later.